So, as I mentioned, I'm going to talk about Alabama's run in the SEC basketball tournament. First things first, Alabama started out with Kentucky. The game against Kentucky went about as well as you could have asked for. Honestly, this was the game that I expected. This was the game that we talked about with Lamont Butler being out. This was the game that happened in Coleman Coliseum, honestly, just to a much more extreme extent. The game in Coleman Coliseum, Alabama ends up winning pretty handily. And in this Kentucky game, Alabama does even better. And the crazy part is when you think about how well Alabama played in this game, and Alabama wins by almost 30, Mark Sears honestly did not play well. Unfortunately, that was something that happened in both games in the SEC tournament. He was playing really well in the 4 to 5 games leading up to the tournament. He did not have his best showing from a shooting performance during the SEC tournament. However, it didn't matter, right? Alabama scores 99 with Mark Sears going 1 of 8 from 3. Aiden Holloway shot well. Jaron Stevenson shot well. Grant shot well. Philon looked awesome, right? Alabama really was just kind of controlling what you would expect. It felt like even though Mark Sears was not doing well from a shooting perspective, he was really good on the defensive end. I thought Philon was incredible on the defensive end. Overall, it was just Alabama's, it was showing Alabama's style of play to its best extent, right? Alabama's defense looked as good as it had looked all year. And Alabama just, to their credit, took over the game and controlled Kentucky. This is this reason why you knew Alabama has that ceiling, right? That is what you see when you look at this Alabama team against a team like Kentucky. We knew that Kentucky, without Lamont Butler, without Jackson Robinson, it was going to be a really, really tough day for them. And that's exactly what happened, right? It was a super tough day for them. It was a situation where Alabama was able to kind of do whatever they wanted from an offensive perspective. They were able to dribble drive, get that penetration, get the kick out. Jaron Stevenson hits his open threes. Like I said, we had plenty of guys hitting open threes. Mo D hits an open three. The Kentucky fans next to me were like, that guy hasn't shot a three all year, right? Like looking at his form. It was just a full situation where Alabama was clicking on all cylinders, and it looked exactly how you wanted it to look. It was perfect from a standpoint of Alabama getting off to a hot start in the SEC tournament. So when you see that game, you're like, okay, awesome. They're playing well after the Auburn game. This is what you want to see. And then we move into Saturday. So all 4 top seeds advance, sets up Tennessee versus Auburn, Alabama versus Florida. As I said, with Kentucky ended up losing, the tickets dropped in price pretty substantially. Me and my girlfriend were able to attend. So we did attend both of these games. And Alabama and Auburn, unfortunately, both lost. This is a situation where Florida comes out, and Alabama, similar to game 1, right? In the first half, Alabama played great. It really felt like Alabama was honestly in a bit of control. It felt like Florida was, anytime we were playing good defense, they were counterpunching. But it really felt like, hey, if Alabama can make just a few small adjustments, Alabama has a very good chance of winning this game. Unfortunately, one really big thing happened in the end of that first half. And it didn't seem to be a major thing because it wasn't a stoppage of play. But all of a sudden, we start hearing rumblings. Grant Nelson is questionable to return. And then he doesn't come out for warmups. And then you get word, hey, looks like he's doubtful to return. He's in a shooting shirt and just shorts on the sideline. And you learn in the postgame that he has a little bit of a knee issue. And he's going to go see Dr. Kane on Monday. I'm recording this on Monday. I have not seen any news officially come out about what is going on with his knee. However, I will say, unofficially, sources, rumors, whatever, it sounds like it's okay. It sounds like it's going to be a smaller thing. If we're without him, it's going to be for the first game. And spoiler alert, I don't think that's going to be a huge issue. If we do have some issue with him not being able to play the second game, I honestly don't think it would be the largest issue either. Obviously, would love to have him back for the second game, but I think Alabama could survive both games without him. But obviously, when you get to the NCAA tournament, you want to be at full strength. You want to have everybody clicking on all cylinders, playing together. gives you the best chance for success when you're talking about the NCAA tournament. So obviously I would like to see him at least play in the second game. But the first game, if he doesn't end up playing, I don't think it's going to be the end of the world for Alabama. I do like our chances without him. So, that happens in that game, and credit to Florida, right? It was not all about Grant Nelson's injury. I'm not going to say that it is. However, I feel like with Grant Nelson's injury, your odds from coming and winning this game went from 5% to 0%. Florida was clicking on all cylinders. Even the decent defense Alabama was giving, whether it be Mark Sears or whoever, Walter Clayton and some of these other guards were just hitting really tough shots. Credit to Florida, right? That's what they do. Again, they were able to impose their physicality on Alabama. But again, that's partially where Grant Nelson comes into play. When you have a 6'11 guy that's super physical and was playing as well as he was playing in the game, it hurts you when you lose him, right? Grant Nelson plays just 10 minutes and he has 3 rebounds. Cliff Amora, he played 16 and only had 1, right? So Grant was giving you something that even your starting center wasn't. It just is a situation where, credit to Florida, right? They're the hottest team in the country right now. They're going to be a favorite for a lot of people for the March Madness. They have been playing awesome. Because of this, Florida gets the number 1 seed, and we'll talk about the bracket here in a few minutes. But credit to Florida. As much as this was also about Grant Nelson's injury, and I do think that it played a major factor, I think that Florida was probably winning this game no matter what. I think Florida showed us what we saw in Coleman Coliseum. I think it was a situation where Florida, was just giving a lot of issues around the rim. Their size was causing a lot of problems for us around the rim. Shots that typically are going in were not going in. Florida was getting run out dunks. Florida was hitting shots that, even open turnarounds or whatever, right? It was just situations and shots that you don't want somebody to hit, right? The shots that Alabama's trying to get somebody to take. And unfortunately, Florida was hitting them. Right? Credit to Florida, right? Don't want to take away from them in saying this. But I do think this is a situation where, it's not the end of the world for Alabama. Honestly, after the Grant Nelson injury, it felt like, hey, it may not be the worst thing to not win this thing, to get an extra day of rest, to get some people some time. Let's not go into the tournament with another injury. We got our win in the SEC tournament. Obviously, it would be great to win it, but it's okay. Just rest everybody. You will be okay. You feel much differently about this loss going into the SEC tournament than you did last season's loss to Florida going into the NCAA tournament, especially with how the end of the season worked out, right? Alabama had one of the toughest schedules in all of college basketball. Probably, I would have to look, but I could almost guarantee the toughest schedule in college basketball over the last 8-9 games. And Alabama played well in those, beating Auburn on the road, obviously dominating Kentucky in that first round matchup. So I do not think all is lost just because you lost this game. So credit to Alabama, credit to Florida. I thought that Florida, deserved to win the SEC basketball tournament. I saw, the team that I saw play against Alabama, I felt confident was going to beat Tennessee. They were able to. Credit to Florida, they win they win the SEC basketball tournament, and they get the number 1 seed for March Madness, whereas Alabama and Tennessee both are a 2 seed because of that. Now, debate with what you will. I do think there are some circumstances in where I think Alabama got a slightly more favorable draw than Florida, even though Florida is the 1 seed and Alabama is the 2 seed. They're in different brackets, and I think that the way the Alabama side of the bracket shapes out for like a Sweet 16 Elite 8 style run at least shapes out very favorably, especially with play styles, right? Because all the NCAA tournament is a play styles tournament, right? When you look